Let me preface this video by saying I don't think that Georgia has a perfect workers' compensation system. Far from it. A lot of people who get hurt at work feel helpless. They feel like their medical treatment's being delayed, their medical treatment's being denied, and generally they just feel like they have no rights when it comes to the treatment of their own injury. And that's simply not true. You do have rights to medical treatment in Georgia, even if the insurance company is not going to tell you about those rights. And oftentimes it can be difficult to enforce these rights, especially if you don't have an attorney on the case. But the point of this video is to explain to you what rights you do have. And if you know your rights and you know that they're being violated, then you have the power to do something about it. And first of all, you have a right to be treated for an aggravation of a pre-existing condition. And we'll see it many times. I can't tell you how many times I've seen insurance companies deny claims because they say that the claimant had a pre-existing condition. As far as workers' compensation is concerned, it really doesn't matter that you have a pre-existing condition. Pre-existing conditions are covered under workers' comp. The only thing that you have to show in order to get workers' compensation to cover your pre-existing condition is that somehow your work was a contributing factor in aggravating that pre-existing condition. And as long as you can do that, workers' compensation is on the hook to pay for that pre-existing condition to the extent that they made the pre-existing condition worse. Georgia law says that your employer is required to have what's called a panel of physicians posted at the wall somewhere prominent in the workplace. This is simply a list of doctors, and when there's an injury at work, you're allowed to select any doctor that you want from the list to treat your workplace injury. This doctor will become what's called the authorized treating physician. And simply put, the authorized treating physician is going to be the doctor who's in charge of your care. So this doctor can treat you themselves, but they can also provide referrals to outside providers. For example, he can send you to get an MRI if you need an MRI. He can send you to a physical therapist if you need physical therapy, or he can even refer you to a surgeon if you need surgery. There are several requirements for the panel physicians. Like I said before, it has to be posted somewhere in the workplace, prominent where employees can find it. It also has to have at least 6 doctors on it, and one of the doctors on the list has to specialize in orthopedics. So here's a question that comes up fairly frequently. What if your employer either 1, does not have a panel of physicians, or 2, that panel of physicians is invalid? For example, if there's less than 6 doctors on it. Well, Georgia law is actually very clear on this point. If your employer does not have a panel of physicians, then you're entitled under the law to choose any doctor that you want, and you're not limited. Normally, how it works in workers' compensation is that your employer and the insurance company have control over the medical. That means that you can choose any doctor from their list, but you can't go outside of their list. If they don't have a list or their list is invalid, then they're not allowed to limit you. You can choose any doctor that you want to treat your workers' compensation injury, and workers' comp's going to have to pay for it. The doctor that you select to become your authorized treating physician is incredibly important. In fact, this doctor can have a tremendous impact on the overall value of your workers' compensation case. Of course, when you select the doctor, you want to choose the doctor who's going to provide you with the best treatment. But also, this doctor is going to have a tremendous impact on other parts of your workers' compensation case. For example, this doctor is going to be in charge of providing you with work restrictions. And if this doctor is overly concerned about their business relationship with workers' compensation and they try to send you back to work before you're ready, then that's going to have a negative impact on your rights to lost income benefits. Second, this doctor can decide if any of the problems that you're having are related to your workplace accident. For example, you might have an injury to the right side of a hip, and because you walk differently, your left side starts hurting. This doctor will decide if the problem on your left side is related to the workplace injury or not. If the doctor says that he doesn't think it's related, then it's very likely that workers' compensation is going to deny any treatment related to your left hip. And third, the doctor that you select to become your authorized treating physician is in charge of providing you an impairment rating at the point where you reach maximum medical improvement. Whether to give you an impairment rating or what impairment rating you're entitled to is entirely up to this doctor. In short, this impairment rating will entitle you to get a certain amount of weekly payments. One thing we see that's very common with insurance companies is that they'll try to tell you that you have to see one doctor. They won't explain to you what the panel of physicians is, and they won't explain to you that you have a right to choose. This is simply incorrect. When you originally get a copy of the panel of physicians from your work, that's a good time to speak to an attorney. An attorney should be familiar with the doctors on the list, and they should be able to tell you which doctors are going to be friendly to injured workers and which doctors are not. Here's another common question. What do I do if I selected a doctor off of the panel of physicians and for whatever reason, I don't like that doctor, I want to switch doctors? Can I do that? And the answer is yes. Workers' compensation law provides you an absolute right to do a one-time switch to any other doctor on your employer's panel of physicians, and you do not need the permission of workers' compensation to do this. Second, if you've been paid any weekly income benefits within the last 120 days, then you have a right to get a second opinion from a doctor of your choice. You can choose any doctor, and workers' compensation has to pay for it. If you're in a situation where your original doctor is saying that you don't need any further treatment and there's nothing that he can do for you, but the second opinion doctor says that he's recommending treatment he thinks can help you, you also have a right to petition the Board of Workers' Compensation to change physicians. This is in the discretion of the administrative law judge, and in order to file this petition, you really need to speak with a workers' compensation attorney. It should raise a red flag in your workers' compensation case if the workers' compensation insurance company is not reimbursing you for your mileage. Georgia workers' comp law says that you're entitled to be paid 40 cents per mile for visits to your doctor, and that includes visits to physical therapy and the pharmacy. Additionally, keep in mind that you only have 1 year to submit these expenses to the insurance company. If you wait more than 1 year, then you've waived your right to be reimbursed. In my experience, it's very common for workers' compensation not to tell you about your right to be reimbursed for your mileage. They also have to pay for your transportation to and from the doctor's visits if you're unable to drive. And lastly, I want to talk to you about your right to request a hearing at any point if you've had medical treatment denied by the insurance company. Unfortunately, delay and denial of medical treatment is far too common in workers' compensation. In fact, it's a characteristic of the system. Workers' compensation is an adversarial system, and that simply means that the insurance company is always going to be looking out for their best business interest, and they're going to do anything that they can to save money if possible. Now, just because your treatment has been denied does not mean that you don't need the treatment. It doesn't mean that the treatment's not related to your work injury. It simply means that you need to request a hearing in front of the State Board of Workers' Compensation so that you can prove that the treatment's related to your work injury and that it's necessary to help you get better. In order to file a hearing, you really need the help of a workers' compensation attorney. The process can take anywhere from months to even longer. So a workers' compensation attorney will be able to do what's necessary to get that issue in front of the State Board of Workers' Compensation so a judge can order the insurance company to pay for any treatment that's necessary. If you have any questions about workers' compensation or if you've been denied medical treatment, please give me a call. My name's Elliot Bourne, and I'm a workers' compensation attorney.